NPower, it's a play of words. I'll get you the actual transcription shortly. It is said to be a first of its kind mental health support program, which includes a 24-hour toll-free helpline to offer free mental health care and support to all NPOs, and that's where it comes in, the NPower, in South Africa. Today marks World NGO Day, and as part of the commemorating this day, let's take a look at NPower and what sort of help it offers in terms of mental health care and support to all NPOs here in South Africa. Vanishaa Gordhan is the spokesperson for the South African Depression and Anxiety Group. She joins us now live. Vanishaa, thank you very much indeed for making the time. Welcome.
Thank you very much for having me on this very special day.
It is indeed special. It gives us a chance to recognize some of the issues that many face in this industry. And it says, you know, somebody once told me, hard times make strong people, and I guess it takes strong people to make good times. You will often find strong people working for NGOs and NPOs. They face high levels of stress and trauma. Put us in their shoes, Vanishaa. What keeps them going?
So NPOs generally, I think I do work for an NPO, so the South African Depression and Anxiety Group is an NGO, and you do it for the passion. You know, a lot of the NGOs have people who are passionate about what they're doing. They're wanting to make a difference, and they're doing with limited funds and limited resources and limited spaces to do it in. So NPower was actually something that SADAG, in partnership with Shikalulu, launched in October 2020, because it's something that's very close to SADAG's heart. We wanted to offer psychosocial support and mental health support to all the NPOs across the country, because we've actually realized that, NPOs actually were struggling because of the financial impact of COVID, the psychosocial impact and the social impact.
I want to talk a bit about where you left off there, about COVID-19. Our lives have been changed and challenged by the coronavirus. Uncertainty still prevails. And at a time of uncertainty, how do we act? How do we cope? How do our children cope in times of great fear and anxiety? And many times people seek these answers from NGOs and from NPOs. But how are they coping during the time of COVID?
So that's exactly it. They didn't have those resources. They didn't have, that psychosocial support or even mental health support. They didn't have the luxury of saying, okay, I'm not feeling well today, or I'm burnt out today and I can't function. A lot of them not having the resources, they actually, the NGOs closed down for a little bit. They didn't have the resources to go online, to go remote. SADAG was very lucky to be able to actually move every single one of our helplines remotely and still have our calls being answered. Pre-COVID, SADAG saw 600 to 700 calls a day, and at the moment we're sitting over 2,500 calls a day. And NPower came at the perfect time, because it was showing that support, giving that mental health assistance, sharing, information, sharing toolkits, and also offering the NGOs trauma debriefings, a space where they can reach out when they're not feeling well or when they're feeling overwhelmed, for their volunteers, for their staff, as well as some of their beneficiaries.
Talk to us about the actual help that you offer in terms of this 24-hour helpline as well.
So SADAG offers 24-hour service telephonic counseling. We also have an SMS line, which is also 24 hours. So any staff member or volunteer from an NGO can phone in, get mental health support, so counseling, containment, and referrals to doctors, hospitals, whatever the necessary resource is needed. But also, in addition to that, we offer trauma debriefings, because they were at the front line. A lot of the NPOs were at the front line of spaces where, they were impacted by the stress of COVID, stress of, what was happening in these different spaces. So we offer those trauma debriefings individually as well as groups to these NPOs.
In the line of work that we are in, we speak to a lot of people who don't even realize that they are stressed or have undergone certain trauma. Help us understand the science the physical or psychological symptoms that are generally associated with trauma exposure?
So it's very important to notice these things. And sometimes it becomes very difficult to notice because we're in the space of COVID. So when we went, from living our normal lives to this COVID space where we had those lockdowns and those protocols, it was very traumatic. It was very stressful because our lives as we knew it had changed. So this in itself brings a lot of stress and overwhelming feelings. So those symptoms, a lot of people actually experience symptoms of anxiety, symptoms of depression within that space, right? It's, maybe your eating habits have changed, your sleeping habits have changed. You might just not, enjoy the things that you used to enjoy. Yeah. Even your hygiene levels have changed. Maybe you're working longer hours, you're not keeping to a routine. And I know as cliche as it might sound, but self-care is so important. So taking that moment out when you're feeling overwhelmed to actually de-stress, refocus, and then go towards your day again. So it's these simple coping skills and self-help tips that we are here to share and want to actually encourage people to do.
So anyone who is looking for help in the non-profit sector here in South Africa, how can they reach NPower? Is there an email address that they can contact or use to get more information?
So definitely, there's so many different avenues. And I think like SADAG, we have so many different avenues to reach us. So it's the 24-hour helpline. Reach out, please, if you're not feeling well and you're feeling overwhelmed. It's 0800 515 515. There's also the SMS number 43010. 43010. Sorry, I got tongue-tied there. There's also the website where you can find videos, articles, information. It's npowersa.org.
All right. Just give me that number again. 0800 515 515.
100%.
All right. 0800 515 515. Indeed, an important need, considering the stress, I guess, that people go through, especially in this day and age. And, many will say our strength needs to be a function of our respect for one another. It is something that a lot of NGOs and NPO workers live by. And we thank you, Vanishaa, for coming on, sharing your story, sharing those workers' stories as well. It's important to know. Appreciate your time.
Thank you so much for having me.